All right, so hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is Pull Up as You Go Up. Today's agenda looks like this. We'll first have some welcome and intros, then we'll move into the second segment, which is looking at a pivotal moment in our careers, and you'll hear from the panel about their pivotal moments in their careers. We'll then move into the main chunk of the webinar, which is the fireside chat, which I'm really looking forward to. And then we'll finish off with a Q&A towards the end. So as Vanessa said, please add your questions to the chat box, and we'll pick up as many of those as possible towards the end. Okay. So welcome and intros. First, I just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to BYP for creating this platform for us to come together as a collective of young and older professionals. This allows us to share insights and experiences and further promote Black professionals in the workplace. I'm extremely grateful and honored to be hosting tonight's webinar, and to my fantastic panel, whom you'll be hearing from shortly. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone in the back office for your input, and to you, the audience, for giving up your time this evening to join in. And I promise you're in for a treat. I know the panel very well, and you're in for a treat, definitely. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. Here's our lovely mugshots, and as the host, I get to go first. So I'm Brian. I've been at PwC for a little over 7 years now, and I'm based in London, England. I work within our central IT function, which is business solutions. So for any of you who are perhaps alumni, that's legacy IFS, so internal firm services, and I work as a business architect. Now, suppose you're wondering, what is a business architect? In a nutshell, I ensure that the gap between the business and technology is bridged accordingly, but I look at it from a strategic standpoint. So on a day-to-day basis, I work with internal stakeholders to ensure that PwC's technology stack is aligned with the UK firm's capabilities and the network firms across the globe. So that's a high level of what I do at PwC. I would like to now ask our panel to introduce themselves. And let me start with Dara.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Brian. My name is Dara Douglas, and I'm a director in consulting, as it says on the screen. But I had my 11th year anniversary yesterday at PwC. Don't know, I didn't expect to be here for that length of time. But I lead something called BXT in consulting, which is really our collaboration approach to complex problem solving, to transformation, and we help bring together big diverse groups to really drive different ways of working and solving problems. So that's me.
Thanks very much, Dara. Henry, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brian. I'm Henry Mwonge. I'm a manager in audit based in the Milton Keynes office. My day-to-day is basically managing, leading, and delivering on audit engagements. I look after clients in the private business, large corporates, and inbound clients, majorly that's work from overseas PwC firms. And I've been with the firm for 6.5 years now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, Henry. Mandy, over to you.
Hi, so yeah, Mandy Amwesi. I've been with the firm for about 8 years now in various roles, various people roles, but I currently am a senior tech talent lead. So basically what that means is looking at the attraction, development and retention of all of our technologists across PwC, but I've actually just started a new role. It's actually, I think it's week 6 or week 7 now, where I'm actually working directly for the exec board member for technology and investments.
Amazing. And last but not least, Sean.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Sean Ford. I work in the operational restructuring practice here at PwC. I lead the Midlands Regional Operational Restructuring business. I joined the business in November last year, so almost a year here so far. I joined from Amazon, where I was there for an extensive period of time. What we do in operational restructuring basically is help companies with kind of cost out, or if the companies say moderately underperforming or experiencing disruptive forces in terms of competition or technology, or they simply want to deliver increased shareholder value, then they can call us in and we can help them.
Great stuff. Thanks everyone for those wonderful intros. So we'll move on and we'll start the discussion around identifying that pivotal moment. So you'll hear from the panel and myself about the impact that someone has had on their careers and how they support others, create opportunities for others, whether it be as their manager, a mentor, sponsor, or indeed as a peer. And once we discuss that, just have in the back of your head how we can all play a role in pulling people up the success ladder with us. But before we dive in, I think we're gonna go to a quick poll. So Vanessa, if you can cue up the poll, please. And essentially the question is, who here has experienced a pivotal moment in their career where someone has influenced their journey? So we got 3 answers or options: yes, no, or not sure. Give that another 10 seconds or so. We've had over half of you already voted. Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure if you can see the results, but we've got over about 79% say yes, that they have had a pivotal moment in their career, which has influenced their journey, and 4% no, so that's 1 person, and 18%, so 5 of you are not quite sure. That's really encouraging to see that everyone, well, most people here have had that pivotal moment. So, but let's unpack that with the panel and discuss a bit more around pivotal moments. So thanks, Vanessa. If you want to end. Okay, great. So what is a pivotal moment, or what makes a pivotal moment? Webster's dictionary defines pivotal to include the words very important and critical. And a moment is described as a precise point in time. Pivotal moments are those big moments, and sometimes they are little moments of clarity that provide us with that unique and new perspective and an opportunity for us to perhaps change our lives in some way, shape, or form. Now, my pivotal moment came when I was in my mid-20s and I got made redundant. It was a very scary time, I'll admit. It was a challenging moment and quite stressful because there was a lot going on at that time in my young career. And I was months searching for a job, job after job application, rejection after rejection. I was borderline going into some sort of depression, absolutely. And then out of the blue, I got a call from an ex-colleague called Dave. And he basically just offered me an opportunity to jump back into the world of work. And he was literally my white knight in shining armor, And I could honestly say that I am here because of that opportunity, because it led to another opportunity and another one after that, and I ended up in PwC. So my pivotal moment. And Dave, if you're listening or you want this back, salute. So I just want to ask each of the panel, please, to describe to us briefly what your pivotal moment was how it came about, and then we'll move on from there. So, Sean, if I invite you first.
Hello, guys. So I think it was maybe about 3 years after my graduation. So I worked maybe 3 years at Barclays Bank, left Barclays Bank, and quite strangely joined an estate agent to be an estate agent because of the freedom that they provided. But at that point, my career was really stagnant and it wasn't going anywhere. And my best friend approached me and said, "Hey, look, there's a Norwegian engineering company that has entered the UK market, and he just got a job with them. He felt that they could use someone like me who is kind of creative, hardworking, and imaginative." I didn't really totally understand what he meant at the time. I do now, but so I sent my CV over to them, and 6 months later, I couldn't believe it. They said, "Hey, look, we'd like to interview you." They interviewed me for a manager position, and I got it, which was really, really interesting because the manager position was actually managing my best friend and his colleagues, which was quite strange. But 3 years after working there, was someone who was really hard, just like worked a lot of hours and really creative. I got promoted and I led the UK business, which was really, really a great achievement. And I recommended my best friend to take my previous role, and he got interviewed by the Norwegian leadership team and he got accepted. So he almost like pulled me up. And then when I got promoted, I recommended to pull him up, and we both basically led that business for a 4-year period before I went on to do an MBA and move on. So that really laid the foundation for the things that I did following the things that I did following in terms of the MBA, and then moving on to Amazon, etc., and then coming to PwC.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing, Sean. Mandy, can we run to you? Can you share with us a pivotal moment in your career?
Okay, well, I probably will start with saying it was probably a chain of events, and I would say that there have been multiple people who have been influential in helping me to navigate my career. But in terms of this particular pivotal moment, Brian, you probably know you probably know my journey really well, because we would have those side of desk conversations, right? And it started 10 months ago when I was in a role where, similar to Sean saying that he felt very stagnant in his career. I was so frustrated. I knew that I had so much more to give to the firm. And I just felt like I wasn't getting the opportunities. I was being overlooked for promotion, those stretch assignments. And for me, the minute that I don't feel like I'm growing or developing, it just, you start to question why you're even still there. So the pivotal moment for me came when my career coach, so here at PwC, we've got career coaches who are separate to your line managers, and they are responsible for your overall well-being as well as your performance management cycle. So my career coach obviously knew all my frustrations, she knew my career aspirations, and she actually did something about it. She was proactive in getting in touch with the newly appointed tech talent leader for the firm, who is Semzi Sonmez. And she had a chat with her and said, "I know someone who'd be really good for your team." And Semzi met with me, we had a conversation, we had a really good chat. And there and then Semzi said, "Yeah, I want you to be in my team." And that for me was amazing, because she took a chance on me, right? Hadn't seen my resume, nothing, just based on the conversation. And I remember saying to myself, because I was so frustrated, I was ready to leave the firm, but I remember saying to myself, if I get this role, I'm going to make sure that I knock it out of the park. And true to form, I delivered. I'm talking late nights. I'm talking sometimes kids will have takeouts, but I really made sure that I delivered, because it was important to me to demonstrate my capabilities and why I was worthy of this opportunity. And, within 3 months, I was on the path for a promotion. With the type of opportunities that I was given, she gave me credit for the work. She would bring me into the room. She would give me the space to be creative and lead on things. And I think that's so important. So in doing so, it got the attention of other senior leaders. I would get to present, be in rooms. It was brilliant opportunity for me to really shine. And that's when I got, I basically was on the radar of the exec board member, and there was an opportunity within his team, which I hadn't considered actually, and it was actually Semzi who brought that opportunity to me and said, "Mandy, would you consider working for he's called Ben Higgin, And I thought, what? You know, he's on the exec board. What are you talking about? I'm just from East London, Walthamstow. You know, just thought, really? It didn't occur to me at all. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, why not? You know, you've always wanted more. Why wouldn't you go for it? So I spoke to my trusted circle of advisors, you know, friends, peers, and they, you know, gave me some really good advice. And so I then thought, okay, let's just go for it. And, you know, I applied for the role formally. And then a few months later, I didn't hear anything. And then a few months later, I literally got a phone call on my mobile from Ben Higgin himself, the exec board member, saying, you know, I'd really like for you to come and work in my team. And when I say to you in that moment, I choked. I said that, and I'm very chatty, and I remember saying thank you, but I choked because it was so emotional for me that after years of frustration, in that moment, it was all worth it. You know, I had finally been seen. And with the roles that I do, I'm not client facing, but the type of roles that I do, you know, you're very much behind the scenes when you work in those people roles, people teams. And it's not often that you get acknowledged or you get the recognition for the work that you do behind the scenes, right? And so for the types of projects and initiatives that I've been working on, and the way it was getting so much traction, and social media campaigns, and for him to recognize the work that I was doing behind the scenes and to give me the opportunity to then come and work directly for him, you know, it was amazing to me. So I would say it's a series of events, and I'd say it's multiple people, you know, career coach, Semzi then being my sponsor, and then Ben also pulling me up as well.
So inspirational. Thanks, Mandy. I know your story well, so yeah, absolutely spot on. Henry, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brian. I think for me, I recall a few years back when I just joined from Uganda, you know, as an SA senior associate in audit. It was a lot of change that was really surrounding me, you know, trying to get my feet on so many aspects, new farm, new environment, new place. It was just a lot that was going on at the time. I really, you know, wanted to progress to manager. And I remember this manager that I worked with on a project, an audit. There was a lot of change that was going on at the client, and there were a lot of complex, you know, transactions that were happening. Some of these things were actually, it was the first time I was working on them. I did invest in a lot of time, and, you know, I was just doing my job, basically doing the best that I could at the time. And, you know, it was time intensive, long hours, sometimes even weekends. And we got it over the line. The manager was really pleased. She recognized my effort, and she just pulled me aside and told me, we need to work out on a plan on how you need to progress. So, you know, come up with a development plan. Let's go over it, and then let's see how you know, we need to get you to the next level. She took it a step further, introduced me to very key stakeholders in the firm and in the region, and that actually later helped me, you know, build my profile. I was, you know, with her help and support, we were able to work out something, and within a period of, you know, 6 months, I was able to get, you know, promoted from the time I started working with her to manager. And for me, that was really key because, you know, quite frankly, I'd thought about it too much, but, you know, not having that someone to, you know, sometimes give you a push was maybe what I was lacking. And when she did it, it was really key for me. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Henry. And last but not least, Dara, please share with us a pivotal moment for you.
Thanks. So for me, it was also at a point which I'd describe as like a fork in the road. I was actually considering leaving PwC. I'm the type of person, I'm quite itchy feet. So every 6 months, I'm like, what am I doing? What next? What next? Always looking for the next opportunity. But with this case, I was actually very serious about wanting to leave. I had another opportunity lined up. I think I'd almost switched off of PwC and disengaged. But a partner at the time, Nick, was really adamant that I couldn't leave. And he not only said the right things, not only kind of offered me all the things that people typically offer you around money, around role, but he really put himself on the line to open up opportunities. So I think that's the big thing for me around pulling someone up. He was proactive. He played out lots of different things with me, coached me around what is it that I'm actually looking for, what are the reasons why I want to leave. And actually we were able to shape a role, and the role that I was given was way above my skill set or experience. And definitely, like Mandy mentioned, it felt like he'd taken quite a big chance for me. So it was a big stretch assignment that's probably at the level of director. And for me, it was shifting from client-facing consulting to a chief of staff role, actually more in terms of how the firm is set up and building a business for the firm. And that was a big move as well. But I think one of the big things that I recognized in him doing that, he obviously put some of his political capital on the line. People recognized him as a strategic and important partner. And the fact that he was backing me meant other people were like, okay, interesting. Who's this little girl? And what's she going to do to help build our strategy and our business? He brought me into the right rooms, kind of similar to what Mandy said, gave me the right influence and roles. And I think that shifted other people's perception of me. So I think that's really the kind of moment I keep most in mind and think about in creating opportunities for others. It's more than just giving the role, but it's also giving some of yourself. And he really did that and continues to be a really helpful mentor up until now.
That's wonderful. Thanks, thanks, Dara. I think from listening to everyone, what we have in common is definitely one or two people who have literally been there for us, backing us, advocating for us, and taking a chance. Because at the minute, I mean, if you don't take a chance on someone, how do you know that they're going to be able to fulfill and deliver that? So that's really, really nice to hear that, you know, everyone's had that thread through their career. That's amazing. Thanks everyone for sharing. Okay, so we're going to move to the main segment of the webinar, and I'm quite excited about this one. I feel like I do know all of you. We've had lots of chats, work related, non-work related. So perhaps, yeah, maybe we should have done this in person in the pub, but alas, we're online. If you have a drink, please take a swig as we go along. But first, let me start with you, Dara. You, for me, in terms of progressing up the ladder, you are the poster person, right, for doing that. Having gone from associate to director in 11 years, that for me, that's phenomenal, right? So why do you think it's essential for us to help others progress up that ladder, especially Black professionals?
Well, thank you. I think I've been conscious all the time at my time at PwC that there's just not that many people that look like me. And I think that's still the case at the level that I'm at. We still need to have more senior representation of ethnic minorities, of Black women, and that still is work to be done. So at every level that I've been at, I've tried to make a conscious effort to go, okay, how am I creating opportunities for others to come afterwards? I set up the diversity mentoring scheme with that intention. How do we bring graduates in, even though I was a senior associate at the time? And then when I was a manager, it's like, okay, how do we create more of an engagement for our people within the organization and so that they stay? And now it's like, okay, as a director, how am I still continuing to create leaders? Because otherwise we're just never going to make a shift if we don't have representation at all of the levels. And I guess what I would like to say for this audience and beyond is that it's not just the responsibility of ethnic minorities to do that. It's the responsibility of everyone who recognizes that a business is more successful when it has diverse talent to take the effort that's required to look for more diverse and underrepresented talent and pull them up. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be in the same situation, continue to make the same solutions, continue to have the same biases that we've had for many, many years in the past. So I'd encourage everyone to take that kind of viewpoint, especially looking for those who are underrepresented.
Spot on, Dara. Well said. I couldn't agree more. So in terms of creating these moments, Henry, from your side, in your BU or in your line of service, have you seen or being part of any of these moments of creating these moments for progressing up the ladder, or how can we include, people in our successes?
Yeah, I think, Brian, I think it is twofold. One, if you're working directly with individuals, say the people you're working directly with or the people that you're supervising, I think it's important to have conversations with them about what they want to achieve. And then you can then hear them, speak out what they want to achieve. Oftentimes, if you don't pop the question, people will not actually open up. But if someone actually opens up on what they want to achieve, you can then structure roles on the engagement to make sure that people get visibility. That is very key. And then, and in doing that, you're helping them capture the attention of key stakeholders and senior people that perhaps you would be working with. And I think the other, point still along the people you're working with, I think it's also important to give people real-time feedback about how they are progressing on the roles and tasks they are doing, rather than waiting to give someone feedback after 3 months or 4 months when the project is done. It's counterproductive. They won't be able to see where they actually went wrong. And then it just comes back to, maybe bite them at the end. But actually, if you recognize that and you told them in real time, they would actually work on it and improve. And I guess the other fold is the people perhaps that you don't work with. And I think that is where networking becomes really, critical. We meet people in very many spheres, like it could be on this workshop, it could be anywhere. I think talking to people, asking the questions, what they think about progression, what is their situation actually? And it's kind of like akin to being a mentor. But of course, you want to mentor everyone because time is of course delicate. But it's important, when you ask that question, you will hear people open up about why they think they can't progress. And I think sharing your own story, like the stories we're hearing now, they're very powerful. It could change someone's situation, it could change someone's thought process. And what that means is that you're actually either directly contributing towards, how people view things and how they can go about situations, because we've all been in different situations.
Perfect. Thanks, Henry. If I change tact slightly, Mandy, let me come to you. So you've spoken before earlier about being more behind the scenes, behind the scenes person. But how have you been pulled up and therefore encourage others to do the same? If you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, if I use the example with Semzi, what differed in that role, I've always seen myself as a very hardworking person, very diligent. I've got this go-getter attitude and I'm very relentless in my pursuit of getting things done. But I think the difference when I was in Semzi's team was that she brought me in front. So it's almost like I've always been the person, like you said, behind the scenes, but she actually brought me in front of the camera in terms of putting me in front of leadership, letting them know who's behind these campaigns, behind these initiatives, behind these projects. And, especially with 2 of the work streams that I lead on at the moment is the Black Tech Talent Agenda for the firm, and also our marketing attraction and recruitment campaigns for our technology division as well. So again, when we're seeing all these, all these articles or features, being on our PwC newsletter and roundup, it's almost like, well, who's behind even putting this together? Who's organizing this? When we see all the stories about our Black technologists and increasing representation, and we've got our LinkedIn live stream series coming out actually this Thursday, which I am shamefully plugging. Things like that, I've always been happy to just work behind the scenes. But when you see that actually you've got people as high as the chairman, Kevin Ellis, actually posting this on his LinkedIn, there comes a moment where someone will stop and say, actually, who's behind all of this? And that's where Semzi would bring me in the front and say, Mandy, it's Mandy who's doing this. It's Mandy who's leading this. It's Mandy. And that's how my name, whereas I was happy to just be, like I keep saying, behind the scenes. I actually quite like that. I like to see the result and the impact more than, the recognition and being famous or anything like that. I get pride and joy from just knowing that it's been executed and it's happening, and what I came to realize was that became a bit of my that became my brand, actually, making it happen, right? As corny as it sounds, but they just know that I will get the job done. So in doing so, I think my message would be around, quiet achievers. When you've got those people who aren't very good, like myself, at advocating for themselves, it's important that you have leaders or even peers who are able to recognize that and actually advocate and champion for those individuals, because I'm much better at amplifying other people's voices and not so much myself. But what Semzi did for me was actually be that voice and be that person in the room to champion and advocate for me and eventually sponsor me as well. So I think how I would encourage others to do the same is to really get to know, especially if you're in a senior position, get to know your teams, get to know your delegates, really understand their skill sets and also their career aspirations. Semzi always knew my career aspiration was to be in talent. That's something that I feel very passionate about. And in doing so, she and Ben together agreed that I would have this hybrid role of supporting Ben, but also still driving these work streams. That to me is amazing. They listened and they've honored that. So I think really encouraging leaders in that position to get to know your people, get to know their strengths, get to know their career aspirations, and actually proactively do something with it, because you never know who those talented individuals can go on to be or become and flourish, and I hope that that's what my story gives to others.
100%. Dad, you want to chip in with something?
Yeah, brilliant insights from Mandy. And I think what Mandy's sharing there is quite common among Black professionals. Quiet achievers, getting their work done, doing over and above, but not comfortable necessarily kind of talking about it, hyping themselves up, advocating for themselves. So I know that I had that same personal experience. The key thing there is to make sure that you do have the someone else who can talk about you. Because if not, it can end up being quite stagnant for a long time and you're doing everything under the cover. So I think it's a really important point and a good example too, that yes, it's okay to not feel like you're constantly boasting and bragging, but that then the work might need to go into how you're influencing and how other people are advocating for you.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Sean, you've been waiting patiently. So let me bring you into the conversation. Sticking with the pivotal moment. Now, I know you're a very successful guy, but I want to focus on the one that could have got away. Has there ever been a point, right, a pivotal moment in your career that perhaps you didn't act on?
So I think there is one, but considering the time constraints, I didn't really want to go into it because it's quite complex. But I'll add a key statement at the end of this other pivotal moment. So one of the words of it's just a much smaller one, and I think a bit more digestible for those on the line. So one single piece of advice that I got when I first joined PwC was say yes to everything. And I think one of the key benefits of that is that you get exposure and you get a huge amount of experience as well. And there were a few occasions when I said no to some things, some things related to government, health, and industry, work related to that. And now, 8 months in, I realize that it's so key for me to engage with that team who, when I first joined, I could have engaged with them quite easily and built a very strong relationship with them if I just said yes to some simple work that they wanted me to do at the time. And I said no like 2 or 3 times. And now I'm spending and got meetings in my diary in the weeks ahead with those key people because I need to build relationships with them because I need them for some stuff that I need to do going forward. So what I take from that is when individuals are more experienced and they've been exposed to an environment and they give you some words of advice, you need to really take that as key advice and very serious and take it on board and act on it, because they're saving you years, months, years of experience and what they've experienced. Now, something that's really key and is related to the larger experience is that no matter what you're doing, you have to enjoy what you're doing. because there were pivotal moments. The biggest pivotal moment in my career where I could have got promoted and been really in the limelight and had an unbelievable, lovely career in a different area in Amazon, let's say, which it was. But I didn't, at the point in time when I got this wonderful advice, I didn't enjoy what I was doing. And I tried so hard and put in so much effort, but it was like the outcome was maybe 20, 30% of what I would achieve here with putting in the outcome, because I really enjoy and love what I do here. So it's really important to love and enjoy what you do. And at the same time, well, not necessarily love, but really enjoy it. And at the same time, listen to those who have a lot more experience, take their words of advice on and move forward, because these will be pivotal moments in your career, the words of advice and actually working hard on something that you really love and enjoy.
Perfect. Thanks, Sean. Love what you do and do what you love. Sound advice. Excellent. Good stuff. So the next one I want to throw in, anyone could chip in, is around culture. I think Dara started touching on it when Mandy spoke as well. And yeah, just how much does culture play in bringing people along and pulling them up? I'm from African and Caribbean descent. So my mom is from Trinidad and Tobago. My dad is from Sierra Leone. And in my culture, in both cultures, actually, this is massive, right? I mean, within the family unit, friends, friendship groups, social groups, when you've made it, you look down below and you stretch the ladder down and you pull people up. That is just done. You know, I've always grown up with that mindset. So just wondering, in your cultures, I know Henry, you're from Uganda, Mandy, you're Ghanaian. You know, is this something that is specific to your culture as well? Is this something that you see? I don't know. Henry, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, personally, you know, whenever there's a joiner that I see who is coming in, you know, I think I've had a couple of people coming in, you know, from, let's say, Uganda and stuff. I've been able, you know, to reach out to them and, you know, talk to them and, you know, show them around. And majority, you know, of all my friends actually do that. So it is actually something that is within us, that when you see someone, you just have to pull down the ladder such that they can be able to start climbing up. So, yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else want to share some insights around that? No, don't have to. Cool. So Dara, let me come to you on the next point. So talking about mentorship, because on the journey to director, I'm sure you've had quite a number of mentors, sponsors, in fact. And yeah, because I think it's just inevitable. The higher you go, the more you need these people to guide you and show you the way, show you the path. But have you ever noticed a difference or a lack of mentorship for Black professionals, youths, or those from socially deprived backgrounds? And how can we move this? How can we change this?
Yep, definitely. I think there's something about mentorship that happens organically with people that you relate to. So Henry just gave an example. He's Ugandan. If he sees another person from Uganda, he's going to naturally want to help them and extend the ladder. So you can imagine that in corporate organizations then, where most people are not necessarily looking like us, they're natural. And this is just something, again, that's a natural bias for us, not necessarily that they're doing anything to discriminate, but it's very natural to find the people you resonate with or relate to and want to help them. So you can then imagine for those that are in the minority, or the majority don't relate to, it's very easy for them to be missed off. And I think I found that massively at the beginning of my career. I joined, I think I didn't notice the Black thing so much at the beginning. I noticed that I was from a socially deprived background. I noticed that I didn't speak the same way. I noticed I didn't do the same hobbies. So it was kind of like, okay, what is this world? And so that was very much the reason for the diversity mentoring scheme, was kind of to tackle how do we provide mentors formally, because the natural or organic thing isn't sufficient. And I think that's partly how we might address it. We sometimes have to recognize what are the kind of ingrained structural or cultural things that are happening, and how do we balance the playing field by putting in place certain interventions like that. But I think the other part of it is, how can I guess for me, recognizing that people might not naturally become a mentor, and you never really want to be the person who goes and asks someone, can you be my mentor either? I remember Sheryl Sandberg saying that in one of her books. So you don't want to ask for a mentor, but they might not offer to be a mentor. So what do you do in that situation? I think the best thing, and Henry touched on it a bit as well, is to ask for feedback. Always be asking for feedback, because in effect, that is what begins a coaching relationship. And that's something that I've done at every grade in my career. I'm always like, so what would you imagine the grade above to be doing? Or what am I doing now that's not the grade above? I'd always be asking that question, always seeking feedback, and in the moment feedback as well. And that then has often created mentors for me who are not necessarily the same demographic. They're not necessarily Black women, but they've actually just built a relationship with me. They've seen a desire for me to want to progress. They've invested something. And because of my desire to keep learning and keep seeking feedback, I think that's helped. So I guess what I'm trying to make there is twofold. Organizations need to put in place interventions to recognize there are structural and cultural differences, but also individuals, especially from a minority background, may need to kind of make extra steps to seek the information and insight that they require in order to grow.
Incredible. Thanks, Dara. I think before I let Henry jump in, I just want to add to that three words that someone told me that has always stuck with me when it comes to asking for feedback and doing things. Tell, do, remind. Tell someone you're doing something, do it to the best of your ability, and then remind them that you've done it. And those three combined, powerful. Henry.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Dara's point about being asking for a mentor. And just a few months ago, I was bold to reach out to someone very senior in the firm, and I asked them to be my mentor. And I actually got that on the backdrop of one of the advice from one of my friends in the office. And it's been one of the best decisions that I've made, because I am learning a lot from this individual, and he is offering his time. We have built an intentional relationship, and I just, I stepped back in hindsight, and I'm like, I wish I had done this way much earlier, but it's hard. Like Dara said, you just have to, take a deep breath and then just go for it and hope, you wish and you hope that the individual actually say yes. And in my case, they said yes. And it's been one of the, good decisions that I've made over the last few years.
Amazing. Thanks, Henry. I think we're all having such an impact in our individual roles, and Paul, I'll come to you in a second. We're all having such an impact in our individual roles that it's absolutely amazing. We need to continue doing that, because we're showcasing ourselves at that level in our roles, in our business units, and we are very few in where we work. So we need to continue to have that positive impact. So Mandy, how can we all have this positive impact as a collective and be the source of influence for others on their journey?
I think even starting like this, I said on my LinkedIn, I did a post about this event, and even me being part of this panel was me stepping out of my comfort zone, because I don't really get in front of the camera. I like being behind the scenes, and I think I've said that quite a few times on this call. But the point is that, for me to share my story, I hope that it serves as a hope, a beacon of hope for other people, that they can, and it's not in a bragging or boastful way, but for them to understand that, quiet achievers like myself, you can actually achieve it. You can be successful in your own right. So I think it's important, the more that we all continue to share, not just what we're doing, but how we go about it. I think, we alluded to it earlier that as a Black community, a lot of us, obviously, if we're children of immigrants, we weren't born with, we didn't, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that we don't have the access and the networks like, our white counterparts, for example. My parents came from Ghana. I'm first generation settler here. So we've had to build our networks, right? And that's the advantage that they have. So I think it's important for us to, to continue to share our stories, share our resources, share our networks. If Brian, for example, you and I have exchanged many conversations. If I'm looking for some help with something, you will be able to put me in touch with the right person and vice versa. But that's how we also build our networks and our relationships. And more importantly, we need to learn to maintain those networks, because like PwC, it's an organization where it's a people network, right? It's a people organization. So I've been here for 8 years and I have been in about 5 different roles around the firm, and I bump into the same people, and it's the same people that you are likely to then therefore lean on or ask for information, or it's very important to maintain those relationships, is what I'm trying to say. So I say share your story, importantly share how you are doing things, and share your resources, and I'd say be bold as well. It's not always that people have believed in the vision that I have, but if I think it's something that is, I think it's worthwhile doing, I will go for it, and I will challenge, not in a combative way, but I will try and get across my point as to why I think it's important. And if I hear no, in my mind, I hear, okay, well, no, maybe not right now, but I will come back to you later about it. And I think it is being relentless in your pursuit, and, and being driven. And we've talked about having passion, but I think passion backed with having an impact in the role and what you're doing. And I think that's the game changer in terms of then how you attract the sponsors and have that, more impactful and, successful career progression. So I would encourage people to just keep sharing their stories and keep talking. And that's how we can all continue to learn and grow. And I'd say continue to read, listen to podcasts. I love this woman called Carla Harris. If you haven't checked her out, she talks about, the importance of how you attract a sponsor. I learned that during lockdown, and she talks about currency. And I think, Dara, you touched on it earlier. She talks about those 2 currencies. There's relationship currency and there's performance currency. So unless you read, you listen to podcasts, you research, there's information out there. Even if you don't have people within your circles, you can find this stuff out and then put it into practice, more importantly, is what I would say as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Thanks, Mandy. Conscious of time, I do want to get to some Q&As, but there's one last bit I wanna bring up, and Sean, if I could bring you in, actually, to talk just a little bit about role models and mentors. We've talked a lot about those, and we've all definitely either been we are role models, or we've been mentors and had them. But my question is, should they be Black?
Yeah. So look, role models help individuals to set the bar, right? In addition, they help you to understand, especially if they're on television or when they speak, they help you to structure yourself and tell you how you should carry yourself in particular environments, how to communicate, and the objectives that they kind of set, that you say, hey, actually, these can be my objectives as well. If you monitor them regularly, it's likely to kind of inspire you and to motivate you each time you do it, or each time you remind yourself about them. If they're Black, it's also helpful because you start to think, hey, if he can achieve it, this guy could be my cousin, my sister, a relative, and if they can achieve it, then surely I can achieve it, right? Because he or she's operating in a very similar environment to me, even though their starting point might be slightly different. But it's really down to you as an individual to set your bar once you've got your role models and to push yourself to achieve it. And that's really difficult. and you have to be kind of hard on yourself. You know, you buy a product from a store and it's broken, you go back, you give them a really hard time for not supplying you with a great product. But you might go away and you disappoint or not achieve particular objectives that you set for yourself, and you don't give yourself even 1/10 of that hard time that you gave the customer service assistant. So it's about setting your own bar and then holding yourself accountable for achieving the things you want to achieve so that you can be the person you want to be years down the line.
Cheers, Sean. Thanks for that. So we're going to go to, I've really enjoyed that. We'll go to some questions now. First, before I go to the ones that have been asked, Paul Antwin, I'm not sure if I've said that correctly. You had your hand up before. Do you have a question that you want to ask the panel?
Yeah, how are you? I hope you can all hear me. The name is actually Atwine. It's the equivalent of Emmanuel. So yeah, I'm from Uganda, like Henry Mwange. And yeah, my question is, okay, just briefly, I worked in private sector for about 7 years. And then when the pandemic hit, I took an interest in health. So I started building capacity in public health communications. And then I resigned at the end of 2021 from my job. I was literally at the peak, and many did not understand my decision and the access I was giving up. But when I joined the public health space, in terms of getting mentors and sponsors, there were so many barriers given the kind of work experience I had and the application in the space. And even one of someone I considered a mentor even once told me, but why don't you go back to private sector? Why do a career shift at this point? So my question to the panel is, what do you do when you're confronted with such a situation where someone makes a conscious choice to shift career, but you see their work experience may not support that career change?
It's a great question. Anyone want to have a go at that? Changing careers?
I could try.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Dara.
It's just interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, a few of us spoke about examples where we were given opportunities that weren't necessarily based on our experience. They were very much a stretch assignment. So some part of it is about upskilling yourself and being knowledgeable about an area you want to move into, demonstrating passion about it. But another part of it is about the relationship and the trust that an individual has in you and your ability to shift. So that's kind of what was initially coming to my mind. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything else there, but you kind of need to think about both how you're building the relationship and also how you're building your technical skill in order to make a career shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that trade-off between EQ and IQ, isn't it? When you first start off, you build up your EQ, you do all your exams, your qualifications, but as you get further along, then it's all about IQ, how you think strategically, how you move within those circles, how you bring people along with you. So yeah, that's what I would add to that. Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. Thanks very much. Another question which has come in. It's probably for let me throw this one to Dara again. So can you share any insights of why we are often overlooked for opportunities? So I would say we, meaning Black people.
Oh, it's heavy and it's a big question for 2 minutes, but I think there's some of it which is deliberate. I think there's some of it which is unconscious, to be honest. I think sometimes people just have a status quo in their minds about who might be an effective leader. And so one, if we don't have the right networks or relationships, that's going to be a barrier. Two, if we don't look like what is typical in that space, that's going to be an unconscious barrier. So I think a lot of that plays into it. And I think also there's something on us too about knowing how to navigate to the right opportunities. And putting ourselves in line for those opportunities as well. And like we said earlier, how comfortable we are to advocate ourselves. Sometimes people have very little experience, but they're very happy to promote and advocate themselves for a role and opportunity. So it could be that we're overlooked. It could also be that we're sometimes not pushing ourselves forward enough. So I think there's a load of different factors there. But yeah, it's a deep one.
Yeah. I'd only want to add one thing to that. So the key there is networking, right? Being kind of, let's say, in the in crowd. It's easier said than done by far. But the key basically is to strengthen the flexibility of your persona. So let's say you're with a mother of 3, and then you go into another room and she's the leader of the organization, and then you go into another room and you're with another leader who is a single guy who is into extreme sports. Learning to be able to communicate and engage and interact and really listen and understand those individuals and where they're coming from, what they enjoy, and being able to have a productive conversation with them is super key, right? I'll give you an example, and if you're not really good at it, here's a cheat. So you're talking to someone, you repeat the last word of what they say. So someone says, I enjoy mountain biking. You say to them, mountain biking? The person says, yeah, I do the Scottish mountain biking in the Scottish Highlands. Scottish Highlands? Yeah, the best people in the world go to the Scottish Highlands to do mountain biking. The best people in the world? Yeah, they're all Olympic champions. Suddenly that person's telling you lots of things, and that's a short version of it, right? So you're not great at communicating, but either one, the mother of 3 is talking about something else, just mention the last word that they say in that conversation sentence, and you'll see they'll go on, and then that same statement, mention the last few words, and they'll keep going on, and they'll think you're absolutely amazing, and you listen really attentively. That'll help with your networking.
Nuggets. I love Sean, man. You're the man. Amazing. Right. People, we're at the top of the hour. I know we started late, so we still technically have about 2 minutes, but I just want to leave food for thought. This wonderful quote by Whoopi Goldberg: we're here for a reason. I believe a bit of the reason is to throw little torches out to lead people through the dark. Now, this is powerful stuff. I hope you've really enjoyed tonight's webinar with our fantastic panel. Thank you once again for joining. But a little bit of a plug, we're always looking for the best talent around. So if you would like to work at PwC or want an opportunity, please do join our talent network by scanning the QR code. You could reach out to any one of us on LinkedIn. Do send us a message, have a chat, be bold, be curious, get in touch. We are, as you can see, we're a friendly bunch. So it would be nice to hear from you. But thank you once again for your time. And I wish you all a lovely and pleasant evening. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Brian.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.